Everyone, welcome back to a CI Chit Chat. Missed out on last week. I was out of town, so it's good to be back. And I got a special guest with me here today, so it'll be fun. We like to mix in guests every once in a while, and we've got one of our farmers with us here today. But let me kind of set the stage like we always do. The CI is carbon intensity. We're talking about basically the carbon footprint of grains, corn, soybeans, or other feedstocks, and it's particularly important in the biofuel industry. And the driving force behind that is 45Z. And the quick update on 45Z is there's not a whole lot of update in the last couple of weeks. So we had the public comment period closed on April 10th. So the public comment period was opened on January 10th by the Biden administration. 90-day public comment period closed on April 10th. Good amount of feedback was provided there. And now it's been, just kind of sitting and holding and waiting. And we know that the Trump administration has been getting people kind of in place at USDA, at Department of Treasury. So hopefully there will be some progress getting made there, but I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything that's going on. But hopefully by this summer, we're seeing some real progress being made as far as putting pen to paper on 45Z. Now that they've got all the comments and they've got the material from the previous administration. I think I talked about it before, but there was a bipartisan bill that was introduced in the House and Senate that would extend 45Z to 2034. 2034 might have been 2037. No, I think 2034. It would extend 45Z to 2034, and that's looking really good. Or just encouraging that Congress is interested in seeing 45Z through, and not only that, but getting it extended. So that's cool. The last little update there from a policy standpoint is I had a meeting or got a call last week from one of the major decarbonization companies, and their CEO called me just kind of checking in, which was great, and just kind of touching base. We talk periodically, and I asked him point blank because they're really pushing on some policy stuff and really trying to get this thing extended. I said they're pushing full speed ahead to trying to get 45Z extended. And I asked him point blank, what are the odds that 45Z goes away? What's the odds that like it just never happens? And he said 0%, which I thought was pretty interesting. That to me, it's like, I feel like there's definitely a chance that it could just go away. They're cutting all kinds of other stuff in the EPA, and they're cutting all kinds of these different tax credits, and especially tied in with the Inflation Reduction Act. A lot of things seem like they're on the chopping block. But for this guy to say no, 0% chance that this will get cut, like I thought that was pretty amazing. But the problem is we don't yet know when the rules are actually going to be released. So we've been helping farmers explore maybe there's other opportunities. Maybe there's different ways that we can still add value in the short term, but it all does boil down to data. And one of those guys that has been able to tap into some opportunity is Carter. And I'll let him introduce himself. But Carter and I have known each other for a couple years now. He farms up in Minnesota. Been working
Mhm.
at Continuum Ag for two growing seasons here now. Especially last year, of course, we had a lot of people that were jumping on, and Carter was part of that. I've been able to capitalize a little bit. But before we go there, Carter, thank you for spending the time here this morning. I'm glad that you fared okay from the storms that were up in your area last night. But why don't you? I'll just kick it over to you. Why don't you introduce yourself and talk just a little bit about your farm too?
Yep, for sure. Thank you, Mitchell, for having me on. I appreciate you letting me get on here and talk with you. And so, yeah, Mitchell and I had met at Iowa State through the Ag Entrepreneurship Initiative a few years back now, and
Mhm.
uh, and so that's kind of how Mitchell and I crossed paths. And so I farm up in South Central Minnesota, Lake Crystal, Minnesota, and so we run a couple thousand acre row crop operation and farrow to finish hog operation as well. And so kind of started going down the journey of strip till about 4 years ago and transitioning our farm over to strip till. And even before that, One of the big things that kind of clicked with me was I took an ag entrepreneurship class at Iowa State with Kevin Kinley and Dave Krogh, and we studied and surveyed a lot of very large companies, public companies, private companies in the food sectors. And one thing that they all made it very clear was data was going to be very critical for their sustainability initiatives. And the other thing that was very unclear was how they were going to be compensating data for their farmers for their data. And so I want to thank you, Mitchell, for putting in a lot of time and effort on behalf of the farmers and advocating farmers, to really stand up for getting value out of their data that they're providing to these companies.
Well, it's really my
Um,
entire story, right? I mean, I'm a multi-generation farmer just like you. I'm trying to figure out how do I make some money for my own family farm and the practices that we're implementing, trying to build soil health just like you guys and
mhm.
trying to figure out how can we interact with these companies? And I do totally agree. It all boils down to the data, and that's
Mhm.
really going to be the proof in all this, and being able to really um, showcase that hey, what we're doing is better.
Yep.
Before we go into that, talk a little bit about your transition to strip till 4 years ago. Like what got you guys started, and let's talk a little soil health. Here that you're in, area of Minnesota
Yep.
where it's all conventional tillage around you, but you
For
guys you guys jumped
for the
into the
most
strip
part.
till thing. Yeah, tell that story.
Yeah, so kind of transitioning into strip till kind of started from a couple of different reasons. We were having a lot of good success with doing conventional tillage. We've been doing that for a number of years. Um, but really, it just stemmed from wanting to make a positive change on our farm. I'm sure everybody feels this on their farm that you're constantly having to adapt and evolve and innovate and get better to be able to stay competitive and keep you going on to the future. And so, one of the things that I really felt like we needed to make a positive change was, and my dad and uncle always talked about efficiencies. And so, we kind of talked about, where do we look at maybe being able to pick up some efficiencies? And strip till was a good way to bring up some efficiencies for fertilizer efficiency with the placement, with fuel efficiency, with less fuel needed to do the actual tillage and the fertilization itself, and then the efficiency of time. We're making one pass in the fall, and then coming right into that. And for our operation, we've had success without having to do strip freshening, and so we've been planting right into that fall strip.
Hmm.
And so, from those standpoints, strip till really made a lot of sense. But it's been really cool to see some of the soil health benefits as well,
Yeah.
that have started to come through with that lack of erosion, with the strip till paired with the manure. I mean, I was out digging corn here, checking depths this spring, and I couldn't take one dig without finding a whole mess of worms. So
That's awesome.
definitely it has been a really cool experience for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think strip
Yeah.
tills are great, kind of middle of the road thing too, right? Like no, like
Mhm.
full blown no till could be tough. It can be tough and heavy cold soils like what you're dealing with. But that strip till
Mhm.
is a good kind of. I feel like it's a good like middle of the road that you're still able to get a black spot there to plant the crop
Mhm.
into, but minimizing that disturbance as much as we can.
100%. You never know what Mother Nature is going to bring you. So being able to have that tilled prepared area, try to get it dried up. We're always kind of fighting that temperature, anyways. So
Yeah.
helps us get to those ideal soil temperatures a little bit quicker. And I really enjoy getting nice strong stalks for hybrids, and that's awesome when the crop is there, but when you go back and go after, that brings its own challenges and stuff too. So to be able to
Trying to get
move some of that stock out of the way, that debris out of the
sure.
way is also a
Yeah,
benefit.
clear some of that residue out of the way and be able to get a good seed bed.
100%.
Now reducing tillage, of course, is now helping to improve your CI score too. Maybe
Yes.
talk about that a little bit on like, do you remember kind of how you kind of came about some of the CI stuff, or kind of where's your head at when it comes to carbon intensity or some of this 45Z stuff that obviously you guys are a hog operation too. Most of this crop is going to
Yeah.
and it's feeding livestock in your neck of the woods. But maybe
Yeah.
talk about kind of your approach a little bit and kind of where's your head at right now with this whole CI and 45Z thing.
For sure. So no, we end up actually probably putting about half of our corn acres get manured, and so that definitely helps our CI score. We are about 2 miles away from the local POA ethanol plant, and so I've been talking to them about their involvement with the 45Z and how they would like to proceed going forward with some of these opportunities and programs, and so. I'm very much in tune with this 45Z program, and I think that we're really poised to take advantage of it if the ethanol plants are willing to really negotiate and work with the farmers, to provide value for their data that they're providing value back to the ethanol plants. And so
Yeah.
it's worked out really good for our CI scores. We probably did CI scoring 2 years ago
Mhm.
and started getting some CI scores and really playing with the model a little bit. We don't use the same practice for every single acre. Every field is a little bit different. And so some of our acres were able to have different practices, different fertilizer levels, and kind of look at those different things and how they impact CI score. But through the manure application, we've been able to get a pretty good CI score, and
Yeah.
would love to partner with Poet to try to give them some of that value passed on.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they would love to partner with you too to be able to utilize that low carbon corn and lower their CI score, especially that the pipeline and that kind of stuff is, of course, delayed, not happening right now. That'll lower their score by 30 points. But in a lot of cases, manure in a lot of areas I've seen with the current Department of Energy GREET model, it lowers your CI score by, in a lot of cases, 12 points or so from the manure.
Mm-hmm.
And the strip till, usually strip till is around like 5, 6 points. And going to no till would likely only add another probably 3 to 4 points of reduction.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
but getting that strip till and the manure, and of course driving good yields, that's all going to help lead to a nice low CI score. And yeah, you guys were able to be part of CI certification, got some of that verified too. And to your point, it's got to be field by field, and that's how we've approached the audit protocol. That we
Mm-hmm.
don't know where they're going to have us aggregate and blend data together. So we've been just collecting the data and verifying field by field. But of course, CI is not here right now, and you've got the door open with Poet, and of course we've talked with over 100 different ethanol plants, and I think they would love a lot of them would love to be able to work with the farmers, but we just need some clarity coming out of DC to be able to get there. And
Mm-hmm.
but wanted to highlight part of your story because you were able to participate in a carbon inset project that we helped to facilitate, where Nestle was able to utilize some of your story and utilize some of your data to create some carbon insets. And
Mm-hmm.
so maybe talk about that a little bit, some of your experience there. That my take is 45Z, of course, is where we are hoping things go because
Yep.
money looks like it could be really good. I love the flexibility. I love the lots of different practices and stuff that can move the needle. It's more just open and inclusive for a lot of farmers if they use the Department of Energy GREET model, but it's not the end all be all. It's kind of back to the start of your story where there's a lot of just corporates and CPGs and food companies that they're also interested in this data, and you've been able to tap into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our second year of partnering with Nestle through you guys, and allowing us to basically being paid for some of our carbon offsets. So when we're looking at utilizing that manure and reducing tillage, reducing fuel, reducing fertilizer, all of those things have a carbon footprint. So when we're reducing those things and still maintaining really, really good yields, that allows us to basically pass on that value to Nestle and their supply chain. And
Mm.
so at first we just tested it on, I think we had, a handful of acres right away. And so this last year we were able to do a good majority of our soybean acres. And so
Yeah.
just it's really nice to be able to, take some value from that. We love making those decisions on our farm to improve the soil health and to become more efficient from those different aspects. But when you're providing that type of value to these companies, it's really nice to be compensated for it in some
Yeah.
level too. So the proof
Yeah.
of concept is there with the Nestle program, and I think it opens up a lot of opportunities for other companies that want to get involved in similar ways.
Yeah, and for context for everyone, we've been working with Nestle. We've participated in a wide array of different carbon programs, right? We've been working with Rabobank for a number of years, their farmers that helping their farmers manage data and implement the regenerative practices to generate carbon credits. The Nestle program, we've partnered with, we've done some stuff with SIBO, we've done some with Bayer, we've worked with a wide array of these different carbon programs. And the issue where I've liked the Nestle stuff is it's a 1 year look back program paying pretty decent. On average, it's been around $20 an acre. It's a little lower on beans, a little higher on corn, and it depends on the practices that you're doing, right? The more practices you do, you can max out the payment amount per acre. And with a 1 year program, so you're not locked in, they don't require additionality in the short term, right? So they don't require practice change, which is nice. And so it's a lot more open and flexible for folks to participate. So it checks all the boxes for me, right? So it's working with a big time company that we know that the money's going to come. The data collection has been fairly straightforward and easy. And the payment is enough where the juice is worth the squeeze, and no long-term contracts. So you got the flexibility. And my whole angle to it is like, hey, we're trying to get 45Z to go, but there may be some opportunities here for some farmers to be able to tap into. The issue was that this year we only had about 50,000 acres that we were able to enroll. And we've CI scored about 2 million acres. So I continue, and we're looking for, all right, some of these initiatives, even outside of 45Z, outside of tax credits, there's a lot of effort. There's programs out there, but we need more of them. We need more of these programs at scale. There's just so many farmers that are interested in doing something. And yeah, Carter, you guys were able to tap into that, try it small scale in year one, and then get a little bit larger involvement in year two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's going to look like going forward, but to me, these inset programs where, like I said, call it 15, $20 an acre, $25 an acre, not bad. It's not crazy money, but it at least makes it
It's proof
worth
of
it.
concept. It's
Proof of
it
concept, and it at least makes it worth it to keep track of the records and submit the data.
Mhm. For sure, for sure. And I think the other key to it too is that there's a lot of farmers out there with a lot of really good data.
Mhm.
There's a lot of acres out there. That's really a lot of opportunity. So,
Yeah,
that's really the key part is finding companies that want to get involved. We have a lot of acres, a lot of opportunity out there. It's
yeah.
just trying to get these companies that are going to get on board too. And I think they will at some point. It's just when, and
I
some
think
already
so
have,
too.
and taking advantage of it. So,
My whole take on 45Z is it sets a precedent, right? And that's why I've been pushing on it so much is that 45Z really kind of tames the Wild West, right? Carbon markets have been called the Wild West for a long time, right? And everybody's kind of got their own system, and there's not really any real consistency to a lot of these different things. And so they feel kind of discombobulated and feels like the Wild West. Well, now government getting involved saying, here's how we're going to score your carbon footprint with the GREET model. Here's how you're going to have to verify it with this ISO 14064, 14065 audit protocol. Here's the dollar value in it because the tax credit value sets the actual financial opportunity. Here's how we're going to track it throughout the supply chain. We're pushing for book and claim. It may be mass balance, but the government coming in and setting precedent here as to here's how we're going to calculate scope three carbon footprint, which is the supply chain carbon footprint. Here's how we're going to score it. Here's how we're going to track. Here's how we're going to verify. Here's how we're going to financially compensate folks. And that really sets a precedent that I think is going to force all of these non-biofuel companies to have to respond. And I like that it's in a better direction. I think the data should be kind of linked with the grain or linked with the product, because eventually it's not only going to be low carbon corn and soybeans to produce low carbon biofuel, but low carbon corn soybeans to produce low carbon pork or low carbon
mhm.
milk, low carbon eggs. I think it just sets a precedent that these companies can tap into and get them away from just small scale. Hey, we're going to try to generate some carbon credits, but we don't really know how to do it. It kind of gets away from that small scale, and now it sets a precedent and put some real rigor in play to say, no, here's how we're going to do it. And those companies, I think, can then point to government as
Hmm.
kind of the backstop to say, well, hey, this is how they're doing it for this regulated tax credit program. Therefore, we're taking a page out of their playbook for our own private sector program. And I think it can really change the game. And I've said now for quite a long time that if 45Z gets implemented correctly, the ripple effect will change global agriculture. And
Hmm.
I stand behind that. And I still think that even I, as the most bullish person on 45Z, I still think I'm underestimating the impact that it could make just in
Hmm.
changing the way that we have to track data on the farm, the audit protocols, the record keeping, the financial opportunities, the telling our ag story. My gosh, dang, it could be so amazing, but it's got to get launched first. And at least we've had some success and some opportunity for a small handful of our farmers to be able to tap into some of these private sector funds. But the bigger picture vision is like, all right, hey, maybe a couple guys can tap into this to at least get some base hits while we're working
Hmm.
towards the Grand Slam home run.
Hmm. And you're exactly right. I mean, companies are already mapping out their own carbon footprints on their inputs. So it's just really partnering with the data provided by the farmers that says, hey, we can do it at a different set point than what you're currently using in your model.
Mhm.
Let's get together and let's partner. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think it's huge to be able to take advantage of those programs now. And hopefully we can just continue to grow them at scale,
Yeah.
whether it comes from 45Z or private sector insets. I like them both. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have
No, me
options.
too. It's like, gosh, farmers need whatever opportunities out there, right? Like, I
Hmm.
mean, it's kind of in a weird spot right now. I feel like people are still quite optimistic. Now we'll see if the rest of the crop can get planted. And there's still plenty of crop that can be put in the ground. And we were talking before we let everyone in out of the waiting room that up in Carter's neck of the woods, of course, too, still a lot of crop to go in the ground. So maybe some of the optimism will fade off if we're not able to get things in the ground. But it seems like people are fairly optimistic in ag right now, or at least kind of neutral, right? We don't really know from a tariff standpoint and those kind of things, but crop prices are pretty good, and I think people are at least trying to be optimistic. But
For sure.
anyway, we're pushing on a lot of this stuff in the corn soybean space. You guys are involved in the hog side of things too. Are you seeing any kind of chatter about data and sustainability or any like kind of carbon footprinting from the pork side of things, or not necessarily?
The pork side of things, I think, is just a little bit slower to adapt. I think, they will probably wait to see biofuels, row crop operations, and buyers, those types of processors move first,
Yeah,
and then they will probably be more open to follow.
yeah,
The really tricky thing with the animal side of it is the feedstock, as we've talked about before, and so without really providing the feedstock a value to the pigs themselves, it's really hard to be able to create that value to the producers or to the packers
yeah.
at this point. So I think they'll maybe be a little bit slower to adapt, but I think that there's definitely opportunity there. But we need
Again,
to
I
figure
think
out
this.
that feedstock aspect first.
Yeah, I think this sets the precedent again, right?
Hmm.
So my whole story in this, is I don't have the ethanol plant 2 miles away from my operation like you guys do. Our ethanol plant's like, I don't know, 35, 40 miles away from our
Hmm.
operation. And most of our grain goes to feed hogs, which there's multiple different hog operations within just a couple miles of us.
Hmm.
And as the pork industry looks to decarbonize, because you got Tyson's and JBS and these guys, that they do have net zero goals, and
Hmm.
their financial backers definitely have strong decarbonization goals. As those packers look to decarbonize, the biggest part of their carbon footprint is the pigs, and more than 50% of the carbon footprint of pork today comes from the feed.
Hmm.
So if a JBS of Tyson's is going to decarbonize, they have to address the biggest part of their carbon footprint, which is the pigs. And if they're going to say we need low carbon pigs, the biggest part of the pig's carbon footprint is from the feed going into it, namely the corn. And so now you've got to start addressing of getting low carbon corn into those supply chains, just like you were talking, Carter, as kind of the feeds. It's not, it's the feedstock for that pork supply chain. So this just kind of sets that precedent to be able to actually go away from utilizing these default values that say that feed is extremely high in its greenhouse gas impact and going towards a path where, hey, we can actually quantify the true impact of the crop and the practices that you implement in the manner at which you grow that crop could actually impact the carbon footprint. I'm just so bullish that the world's going to go that direction. And of course, it's been been frustrating to have things not happening as fast as we want in DC and have things not be fully clear. But hopefully, in the coming months, we do get some clarity on that. I think ag needs it, and again, it's going to create a ripple impact that is going to just change how all this
Yeah.
stuff is done. I'm hoping too, Carter, of course, that it's enough financial incentive to get more farmers up in your neck of the woods to really make that jump into strip till. That, of course, there's some upfront risk and cost
Hmm.
in doing some of this stuff. And um, what's your kind of hot take on that as we work towards wrapping as far as the some of these financial incentives? And do you feel like there's more farmers that are kind of on the edge and ready to go more the route that you guys jumped into 4 years ago, or kind of what do you envision as what's going to happen in your back of the woods
Yeah.
if this stuff can move forward?
So, I mean, when we looked back at initially starting to change, there were about four farmers locally, somewhat local, that we targeted and went out and talked to. They were doing strip till successfully. We wanted to emulate what they were doing, ask how they were doing. Um, as we've gotten into this strip till, I would almost call it a community. It is starting to grow. It is starting to build momentum, and 100%, I think, when those financial benefits and incentives are there and provided. There's a lot of other good reasons to make the transition and make the switch. Like you said, it has risk, and so that's just adding more of the reward. And so I think guys feel more comfortable maybe making some of those early mistakes or growing pains, and it helps kind of buffer that and get guys on their feet and get them started in the right direction with the soil health aspects and regenerative farming, strip till, no till, all of those practices. They have risks. Farming has risks, but it helps buffer some of those when you're making those transitions. And so I think
Yeah.
that's really critical.
I think so too. I always boil it down to helping farmers overcome the economic and logistic risk of change, right? So the economics, and this is just a huge carrot that could help to drive to offset the economic risk of changing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, there's all kinds of resources helping overcome the logistics, the how to. You guys seeked it out through some local farmers, but of course, got to give a shout out for Minnesota and the Minnesota Soil Health Coalition and our buddy Mark Gutierrez. You guys got a really cool thing going on up there, and
Mm-hmm.
just being able to build out that network, right? That there's more resources than ever from a how to, and hopefully some of these things come together to really provide an additional carrot without it just being straight up money being paid from the taxpayer. So I like that aspect too. That of course at the end of the day everything is paid by the taxpayer,
Mm-hmm.
but I like that it's these tax credits and be able to drive innovation and be able to drive business from a tax credit perspective versus it just being just a payout. But anyway, well, Carter, any last kind of things? This has been fun. Of course, it goes fast. I knew it was going to go fast, but I mean, kudos to you guys and thanks for hopping on this crazy train with us a couple of years ago. And I think it's been fruitful anyway. And to your point, like, gosh, we're going to keep fighting to bring opportunity for farmers. Unfortunately, it's small scale right now, small
Mm-hmm.
scale opportunities. But man, if some of these tax credit programs and stuff can go forward, it really is going to create scale. And that's
Yeah.
what I'm after is I think there's a lot of farmers that would love to come more this route.
Mm-hmm.
they just need the kind of that oomph to be able to make it go at it. So thanks for sticking with us and being part of it. And yeah, like I said, we're gonna keep fighting. But final words to you, Carter.
Yeah, no, I first of all, I just want to thank you again, Mitchell, for everything that you're doing. The policy is changing. You're helping guide the policy, helping people advocate where to advocate, and really advocating for the farmer on behalf of the farmer and helping the farmer get their piece of the pie. And so I just want to thank you. You're spending a lot of time, effort, and resources into this, and you really believe in it. And so I want to thank you first and foremost, you and your team
No, I
at
appreciate it.
Continuum Ag for doing this, and thank you for having me on. I think the opportunity there is huge, but it's really just getting the right people together, the right data together, and the right people coming to the table. And so I think you're on that path. I think that we're on that path together, and I appreciate everything that you've done so far for us, and will do in the future. I look forward to where we can take this thing and going forward,
Me
because I,
too.
I do think that there is a lot of opportunity for us and for other farmers. It's just about getting the incentives clear and getting people aligned together. So
I
that's what
agree.
I look forward to the most.
We're gonna make it happen. That's for sure. I'm not giving up.
Absolutely.
So anyway, all right. Well, thanks, Carter, for hopping on. Thanks everybody for joining here today, and we'll be back with another CI Chit Chat going forward. This will be shared on our YouTube and the Topsoil podcast as well. I think a great message for other farmers. So appreciate any sharing and whatnot there. But everyone, have a great Tuesday. Hopefully you fared okay with the storms, and hopefully your planting season is going smoothly here. But we'll catch you on the next CI Chit Chat. A quick shout out for the Topsoil Summit, June 3rd. The early bird discount is still available right now, but we have to turn off the discount at some point, or else it's not. It's we got to end it at some point. So that's coming up here very soon. So get registered if you're not. We'll see you then. But appreciate everyone. We'll talk to you next time.